Howdy, it's Nathan with the Shop Warrior channel. Today I'm going to show you how to install a vapor canister. Before we do, I want to talk about some of the other videos I have that you may find helpful if you are troubleshooting the Evap system. But if you already have the canister and you're ready to go, then feel free to skip ahead and just get to the install. But I did want to let you know that I have a video on how to replace this guy, another component of the Evap system, and also how to replace this guy, the solenoid, another part of the Evap system. This guy lives on the engine. So I've got videos on how to replace those. I've also got a video just explaining how the whole Evap system works, how all the components fit together, how all the lines are diagrammed, or how they connect together. I was just kind of struggling to understand how all these pieces work. So while there are a lot of videos showing how to just install the pieces, I hadn't seen one showing how they all connect together. So if you are interested in that and you're trying to troubleshoot your system, feel free to check that out, and I'll put a link to that up above. The other thing I wanted to mention too was that if I was starting over on the system, so I've just ended up replacing all three components I just showed you, and a critical piece, blowing out the lines. If your vapor canister is old and needs to be replaced, likely the carbon bits from that have gotten into the lines, so be sure and blow out the lines, which unfortunately, some bad news, requires dropping the tank at least partially so you can pull off the lines off the top of the fuel pump and get them blown out. If I was starting over, the first thing I would do is check the lines to see if there's carbon in them, and that lets you know if the carbon canister is bad and needs to be replaced. And if you do hear those bits, then you need to clean out your lines too. So you can check that by pulling off one of the lines from the vapor canister and seeing if bits fall out there. You can also check, another easy way would be to go to the engine, pull off the hose that connects to this guy, the solenoid, and if there's carbon bits packed in here. So obviously if they're packed in here, then they have been in the lines from the engine all the way back to the vapor canister. It's another good clue that you need to clean out the lines really good. Just a few things I wanted to share as you're troubleshooting the system. Now let's get into installing the vapor canister. All right, let's get into it. Here's the Evap vapor canister, and let me drop down here under the truck and show you. Got it up here. Make it a little easier to access. But if you come in under here and you look right up in there, there is the canister. So we're gonna take out that metal bracket underneath. You see that's holding it, disconnect the lines, and put in the new one. Shouldn't be too bad. Crawled underneath it here, get a better vantage point so I can access these hoses. That's the first thing we want to do. There's one here and one here, and then another one up above that. So we're going to disconnect those three and then undo these two bolts, and this is actually attached to this, so I'm going to leave this hose since it just connects directly to this guy, and then disconnect this electrical. This electrical you just disconnect by pulling back on this red tab and then pulling straight down. Came off pretty easily. So what we're trying to do is squeeze, I'm trying to get this first hose off, so you squeeze it. I couldn't quite do it with my fingers, so I just got a pair of channel locks and just squeezing a little bit to kind of loosen it up. Get this little angle part. When you squeeze it, it goes from this to that angle. So, and it moves to where it's not caught on this lip. So you're trying to squeeze it, which when you squeeze it, it moves it from pointing that way to pointing down and opens it up. So what finally made the difference here and made this easier to come off, so you can get to focus here. Let me zoom in. Hopefully you can see this. So there are these little angle tabs here. When you squeeze it, they're supposed to kind of fold out to allow it to get over this lip right here. But after loosening it up a little bit, I couldn't quite squeeze with my fingers because they weren't really bending that way. So what I did was I got a small flathead screwdriver you see here, and I bent them to encourage them to go in that direction, which seemed to help. And then ultimately what I did is I bent this and I put a screwdriver here and pushed, kind of held it over this little angled part over the ring. So I just had one, so that way I held this one over like that, and then I got another screwdriver and put it on the other side. And while I was holding this one, so I held this one in place, and then I pried this one with a second screwdriver, pried it, and then put it here, and then I pushed from both sides with 2 different screwdrivers, and then allowed it to slide over the ring that's holding it here that you're trying to get these little tabs over, and that allowed it to slide out. So hopefully that's a good little tip there to help you get this guy off. So once you get it over the tabs, then you just pull it off and get stuff all in your face. I just pulled this off, and tons of these, see if you can see it, see all the black stuff all over, tons of these little black carbon pellets fell out. So definitely don't have your face right over this, wear some glasses. So there's tons of those little things coming out of this hose, which again, that's all coming out of this vapor canister. That's what it's loaded with. That's clearly, it's just been filling this line and clogging it up, which is why this whole evap system can't breathe, and why the pump is clicking off. So definitely something to be careful of when you pull this first hose off. It could dump a bunch of those pellets on you like it just did me. I can't really reach the second hose that's up here, so I'm going to go ahead and take these bolts off and lower it down so I can get better access, and then pull off the second hose here. So I'm just going to undo these 2 bolts and slide it down. This loose, I'm holding it with my other hand. I now have much better access to the second hose there with the blue, and you just you squeeze that blue piece inside there, and it loosens up and allows that hose to slide off. Alright, so we got the second hose off, and the whole thing is come free now. So here's that second blue connector, or where the hose connects to. So you can see you got to squeeze this to allow it to slide off, and I just put a screwdriver here, and in here, help kind of work it off. It's a little tricky. And then the other piece here too is connected to this, and you just stick a screwdriver in there and it pops open. Alright, got the canister out. Now we'll take this bracket off and put the new canister, connect it to the bracket. Here are the 2 lines that we disconnected from the canister, and when I shake it, I don't know if you can hear it, you can hear what sounds like some of those black pellets rattling around, and same for this one. I know they came out of this one too. We now just need to remove this guy. It's another one of these connectors that you squeeze, and then of course remove the metal brackets that hold this guy, and then we'll put our new canister in and put everything back. And that is it for the vapor canister install. I hope you found that helpful. I've got a lot of videos on the 2005 Suburban as I fix things and upgrade, so be sure and like and subscribe if you want to follow along in my journey. All right, thanks for watching.